And we are. Hi, Facebook friends. Helen Archontou here, CEO of the YWCA of Northern New Jersey. So grateful to have some time with you together on this Thursday. As you know, if you're a regular viewer of YWTV, Thursday is the day that we share the mic now. And it's an opportunity for us to amplify the voices of Black women in our community. And they have all been such amazing conversations, and we have another one for you today. And I'm so grateful to have with us today my fellow commissioner on the Bergen County Commission on the Status of Women, June Smith. We have been sitting side by side, more recently in Zoom boxes, but for some time now at our commission meetings. And I'm so grateful that she accepted our invitation to be here with us today to talk a little bit about the work that she's doing and her life experience. And as I just said to her before we started, she's definitely a light in this world. And I'm so grateful that we are going to get to talk with her a little bit. But let me tell you a little bit about her background first. She serves as a director of strategic partnerships at Greater Newark Enterprise Corporation. She is a professional in publishing, media, education, and business arenas. Jay is an entrepreneur at heart and worked with a multitude of brilliant professionals during the course of her career. And she most recently has been working with the City of Paterson's Housing Authority and HUD, springboarded the Paterson Housing Authority Success Incubator, a small business incubator designed to jumpstart workforce and economic development within Paterson. She is thrilled to join the team at GNEC as their mission aligns with her passions for social impact entrepreneurship and has elevated it to another level. And most recently, because that's not enough, because she also became the executive director of Color for Valley Arts, an arts organization in Orange, New Jersey. So June has a full plate. Look at that beautiful smile she has, despite it all. Probably because of it all is probably more appropriate. Welcome, June.
Welcome. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm so happy to have you. And I'm so excited. We have so many places that our lives kind of overlap in terms of our work in the community. So and for those of you, we'll talk about it at the end, but you can get more of the two of us today because we're doing a second Facebook Live at 11 a.m. over on the GNEC platform today too. And we're putting the links for their website here, and also you can connect with them on social media. But we'll talk more about that later. But so tell me about your work there.
My work there is actually pretty exciting. I started working with GNEC really because as I was doing my work in Paterson, I really started realizing how important entrepreneurship was, and really only because the project that I was working on was a HUD project, right? But it was with the Paterson Housing Authority, who was building new housing developments in Paterson. Mm. And so, if folks who are out there who know anything about housing development, if you're getting federal funds, what federal funds say or have you comply to is the fact that 30% of the residents that you're building the new development in that city must be able to have some sort of jobs that they can, that you can kind of help in terms of the economic development of that city and of the residents, right? Most people who may or may not know anything about Paterson, here's one thing you will know is that Paterson is a space where there are many people who live in low income situations, but also a lot of individuals kind of end up in Paterson either because they're rehabbing from opioid addictions and there's shelters there, and somehow it seems to be the place where people kind of drop off folks to get clean, and that's kind of a sad thing. And also because there are so many exciting and successful people in Paterson, the dark parts of it get shrouded, right? And then that's what you see. But I also got to meet a lot of young men who were formerly incarcerated. and who came out who are smart, capable, but really are just not necessarily marketable in terms of the job,
Mhm.
you know, market. And therefore had to think about how are they going to sustain themselves. And one of the ways in which we talked about was finding ways to help them think about starting businesses, right? Out of that, and a lot of things happened as a result of that. But out of some partnerships that we were able to create in Paterson with the Housing Authority, we were able to formulate a business incubator. And so some of those individuals were able to start their own businesses. So that kind of was a bug that just bit me a little bit,
Yeah.
because most of my family members are entrepreneurs. And because of that, one of the partners was GNEC on that project. And that's how I got to GNEC. So when I got there, it was really more about, okay, how do I continue this work? I had not really ever worked in Newark before, different landscape. Some things are similar, some things are not. It's an urban center, but there is something about Newark that's very different than Paterson.
Yeah.
However, some of the social issues are the same.
Mm.
And so I was able to jump in, learn some things that I never knew about. Banking wasn't really my background. So trying to kind of be on that learning curve was exciting. And I got a chance to really begin to see how people really can develop businesses, right? And so I started looking at my background from the other jobs I had had to see how I can blend all of those different experiences and take it to another level. And so, now my work is I don't do direct lending. We are a community development organization, and we actually work to deploy capital to small business owners in New Jersey. As a result of that, however, I was more excited and interested in talking to individuals who are starting their businesses and trying to see how we can create opportunities for them, not just only to grow and sustain their businesses, but to also create some partnerships and some collaborative activities that can help them be sustainable. So that, in a nutshell, is why I do strategic partnerships, because my job is to help people think about how we can help them be better and stronger in what they do, but also if they need to think about how to pivot, what does that look like for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get that platform to then market that information and make it so that it is viable for those that they're going to serve down the road, given whatever landscape they find themselves in?
Well, what an amazing gift to be that type of matchmaker, to bring kind of the
Yes.
idea and the capital and pull that all together. And I know that you made reference to this as you were talking, and I'd love to bring us back to, you talked about how you come from a family of entrepreneurs, and that's where it all started for you. And so it's really no surprise, knowing a little bit about your story, that you're so successful and that this is such a sweet spot for you, because you were almost raised to do this.
Yeah. And the funny thing about it is that, as we had talked before, I'm from the Caribbean. I'm an immigrant. And so that's even sweeter for me, because given the fact that, the conversation that's being had now with immigrants
Yes.
in this country, but we're all immigrants, whether we
Yes.
want to admit that or not, right?
Yes.
But as a child, I don't remember when I lived in Trinidad. I don't remember seeing many people who, just kind of did a 9 to 5. They might have done a 9 to 5, but they always had some other little hustle going on the side, right? Was it selling candy, or, they were making things. My sister used to make bridal dresses. So from a child, I watched her, sew dresses for different people, and, was able to sell it and make a living from that. My cousins, owned nightclubs and stores and restaurants. So it was really just an interesting thing. When I migrated to America, it was really more about, okay, I needed to be educated, and I also needed to understand that I needed to have multiple ways of making a living. And that doesn't mean that I didn't struggle and I didn't suffer and didn't have money. Many days I didn't have money, but there are other days that I did. So you kind of have to take the risk, and you have to be willing to, to play the hand that you're dealt. But in all things be resilient, and in all things never give up.
Yes. And how amazing that you can give that message to the individuals you're working with because you've lived it yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's the sweet sauce, right? That's the secret sauce, that when we talk about that, a lot of people say, oh, it's just get up and do it, or just do it, or whatever. Or people see what it is they think you've accomplished, but they don't know what it took to get there. They don't know the suffering and the sleepless nights and the nights that you paced back and forth thinking, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But I think the reality is, I live by this creed of understanding I am that I am, God is in me, and God is the only source and resource that I have. I don't think about anything else, and for other people, whatever their faith is and however they worship, if they do or don't, it's really not even an issue. For me, that's what carries me. That's what moves me. And I follow my instincts and intention, and intentionally I move and I'm guided by that every day. I don't falter, because the minute I do, I am always regretting it, So I recognize that I have a responsibility. To whom much is given, much is required. And so as we walk these paths, some of them are very unknown, but I'm excited that, we've seen a lot of suffering. We've seen a lot of death. We've seen a lot of anxiety. But tomorrow the sun comes out, right? It might rain today, but tomorrow it's going to be sunny and it's going to be bright, and we're going to be excited about seeing what that day brings. And if we have that mindset about how to do that, great. But if we don't, as long as you have this thing called hope and faith, I think you can conquer anything,
Yes.
No matter how ugly it is.
Absolutely. And, again, the fact that you've lived the experience and can share from where you've been, for sure, makes it even more believable and, stronger for all around you, for sure.
Sure.
You have quite a fan club. We have Dr. Caprice and Nicole Davis and Samuel Lee that are with us this morning.
Hi, guys.
All cheering on our conversation.
That's great.
So, tell me a little bit. Recently, you started even another wonderful opportunity for yourself, and I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
As if I don't have enough work to do, right? So I actually just got appointed to being the executive director for Valley Arts, and I think in my bio somehow, it makes me the first executive director of color.
Mm-hmm.
And and people are fascinated by that, and I'm grateful, but fascinated by it I am not. I understand that we live in a space where there is still this thing called racism, but I am an entrepreneur at heart. I am an artist at heart. I'm a writer by trade. And so I've been sitting on the board for Valley Arts for a while. So I was internally, but I had been an executive director in the past. So it didn't seem like it was such a heavy lift. However, going into Orange, New Jersey, and understanding the landscape that I find myself in, Essex County is different than Bergen County, as you know.
Yes.
And so, but there's one thing that I think is very important, right? That Orange is neighbored with South Orange, West Orange, Montclair, cities that have money, right? People that are affluent, that are very successful in their careers. And interesting that Orange is in this space. And so the one thing I wanted to be able to do is to make sure that we can push education in the arts very successfully in that area, that we can uplift and that we could celebrate the artists that are indigenous to Orange, right? And that we can actually work together with the neighboring towns to make this a much more livelier and much more multi-purpose space for the arts. It's not just about painting. It's not just about sculpturing. There are writers, there are dancers, there are singers, there are all these different people who live and dream the arts, and we need to be able to celebrate that and take it to another level. And if I can do that, in addition to helping them create businesses and commerce around that, that's like the greatest alignment ever.
Well, and that is the unique talent that you bring. I mean, and I know from speaking with you, your background has had you have your hand in lots of different areas over the
Yeah.
course of your life. I mean, it sounds like entrepreneurship has always been a theme,
Yeah.
for sure, but that you really have a number of talents and arenas that you've been, had this opportunity to flourish within. So it sounds like they're all converging right now.
Yeah. And you know what? The funny thing about that though is that I didn't even see it that way. You know how sometimes you just have gifts and talents and hobbies or whatever we want to call it, and we just kind of do it, right? And I have a friend who calls me Slash. And she calls me Slash because she's like, you're a writer and you're an author and you're a director and and so we laugh about that. But I said to her, I'm a Caribbean and I have 10 jobs. And what do you want? That's like kind of the thing, right? The running joke we have. How actually, seriously though, these are all gifts. And I feel like, when you are put on this space, when you talk about your purpose, whatever that is for you, I want to maximize my humanity. I want to use all of my gifts and my talents. And it's bigger than me. It's impactful. And I want to be able to leave the world better than I found it. Right. I grew up very poor. My mother was very poor, and she had 5 children. And so, now I look back on those days and I look at the things that we've been able to establish and to do as a result of my mother's hard work and determination. It would be a travesty for me to not make sure that I make her proud and that I live up to her legacy and beyond. Correct. So I don't have time to think about anything other than, okay, what do I do next? And I feel like when sometimes God has given you the opportunity, you need to take it, you need to seize it, but you also need to make the best of it. And you also need to, make sure that the people around you are better than you found them as well. Right. That to me is what it's about. And if we're not doing that, if we're just doing it for the process of just self, and being on screen and being on TV and doing all of that stuff is great, but it doesn't, you have to look at yourself in the mirror when you go home at night, and you've got to like who you see.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for who I see.
Yes. Well, we are too. And I see Dr. Caprice wrote exactly what I was going to lift up too, maximize my humanity. I mean, what a beautiful statement that was. And
thank you.
Really, really speaks volumes, and really a way that we should all strive to live our lives for sure.
And it's not easy. It's not at all easy, because you're gonna get folks along the way that are not gonna support that. Yeah. That are not gonna understand that, and that are going to really, poo-poo on that. But I feel like, if I have time to work on me and do the work that I'm supposed to do, I don't have time to really poo-poo on you. Yeah. I've got to lift you up. If I see you're alongside of me and you're fighting this good fight, I've got to help you. I've got to make sure that whatever tools I have, I can share those tools with you, no matter what. And I feel like that to me is the most important thing. And I have some sisterhoods that I cherish, because all of the women in the sisterhoods, are people who understand the power of love, right? And support. And that for me is critically important in this day and age that we find ourselves in. And especially if we have children, right? So, yeah.
I would have to agree. And so let's talk a little bit about, our children. What are the messages? What are the messages there to share, especially after this year that has been so difficult, so much loss, so much trauma.
Yeah. Love on them, love on your babies, no matter how old they are, but support them. listen to them. I have adult daughters now, right? So, and I'm only 20. But I believe that these are the best years that I'm having with my daughters because they are professional women in their own right and they are smart and I like them as people, even if they weren't my daughters.
Mm.
But they're making their own way. And I think, watching me do what I do, I think kind of gives them some incentive because they know I'm going to call them on their stuff if they mess up. But I feel that the role that I play in their lives is just a little bit different. It's really one more of a listener, somebody that gives them advice and counsel, and not necessarily, I'm going to tell you what to do type of thing. But also, I think it's important for us to support them, right? It's important for us to pull out the gifts and the talents that we see in them and help them to strive and to push that forward, propel that in their own way. They're not going to live life and do the things that I do, but I also know they have their own walks, and it's a beautiful thing to watch the transformation of our children, right? Like as I was talking to you yesterday, your little one comes in and she's having a conversation with you and you're like, okay, and she's like, no, I need you to pay attention to me like right now in XYZ. And that's okay. That's beautiful because she understands that she has the power and the tenacity and the courage to speak up and to let you know what she needs. And I feel like that's the most important thing as women, even if we have sons, but I feel for women particularly, we're sometimes very always apprehensive about always saying what we want, right?
Yeah.
And we're not always sure within ourselves that we're going to get those things either, right? I grew up in the Caribbean, as I said to you before, and so my mom would always say to me, don't be in grown people's conversation, and don't be don't be in the room, and you got to go. And I don't really do that with my girls. They know they can have a conversation with me at any time. Now, maybe the things that they say, some things may or may not be acceptable, but at the end of the day, give them a voice and let that voice resonate in whatever capacity they find themselves in.
Yes, yes.
Be a sense of support for them because you're a phenomenal woman, right? And so you have to be able to show them that they are phenomenal too, because they come from you.
Yes, yes. And that's really resonating for our viewers, about teaching our children to recognize their power and understand the power of love and their voice. And
with all things, do it with love.
Yes.
With all things.
And it's interesting, as you're talking about your daughters and the way that you interact with them, it's so clear why you're also so successful in the movement of helping develop businesses with entrepreneurs, because it really is with that same care, that you do that support and deliver it.
If you don't do anything authentically, don't do it. Right? If you're not going to be authentic, if, I was not going to come on and talk to you to just be on camera or to have people like what I have to say. Yeah. I was going to come and talk to you because I truly admire you and I truly like the work that you're doing. And I respect the fact that, we've sat on committees and you know how that is, right? We sit around a bunch of other powerful women who are successful in their own right. But what is that thing that draws you to someone else, right? It's either something organic that you see in each other, right? It's an energy that pulls you that you cannot quite explain, that you cannot articulate, nor are you supposed to articulate it, right? You are supposed to just understand to follow the direction of your intuition, right? So I know that everything I do, I try to do it to the best of my abilities, right? I try to live by the 4 agreements, which is don't take anything personal, even though sometimes I want to. Don't judge, even though sometimes I want to. Don't make assumptions. And the other thing is always do your best. So I don't really understand it. If I'm going to put energy and effort into something, It's got to be my best. And if it's not going to be my best, I have learned how to say no.
Well, and right there is a mouthful right there, right? I mean, as women, that's not something that we are wired to do.
That's correct. But you know what you're called when you say no, right? You know, you're called all these names.
Yes.
That technically sometimes they wouldn't call other people.
Yes. Yes.
You know, so I've learned how to deal with that too. And that's just a part of the process, right? That's a part of being a leader. Everybody's not always going to like what you say or like what you do, but you have been charged to make those hard decisions and live by them. And as long as you know the purpose or the reasoning why you're doing the work that you're doing and making the decisions that you're making, then it doesn't really much matter. You know, it will all, you know, come to the surface at some point in time.
Well, I have to say I'm so grateful, and again, obviously our viewers are feeling the lift as well. I mean, you know, what a lovely way to start our morning to be able to have this conversation, and you know, obviously the work of the YW and the work that you're doing at Greater Newark, which we'll be talking about again for everyone. Just keep with us. We'll be together again at 11 o'clock today. A different channel, but same medium on Facebook Live, different organization, but you know, continuing the conversation about how we are both committed to supporting entrepreneurship and closing the wealth gap for BIPOC women. And we'll be talking a little bit about a new YW initiative, and you know, with June and one of her amazing entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You know, he has. So June, tell us a little bit about 11 o'clock. So if anyone wants to follow us over, how to find us.
So we're going to be switching roles because I'm going to be interviewing you. And so it's GNEC has a monthly Facebook Live event called Profiles in Business. And what we do is we highlight entrepreneurs or experts or professional folks in the field of business. And obviously, this is Women's History Month. I did not want the month to go by without talking to phenomenal women. I also wanted to really talk about the fact that, you know, we have these big initiatives and conversations around BIPOC and being able to get folks capital to run their businesses. And so we know that less than 2% of the people, let me back that up. My brain goes faster than my lips. So we know that less than 2% of entrepreneurs of color are women who are struggling with trying to be able to scale their businesses because they just don't have access to capital the way that many others do. And so that is a conversation that has been near and dear to me. And so we have initiatives through GNEC that are actually speaking to that very thing. So when you shared with me that you were doing the same thing with you, I was like, oh God, we got to get you on there. We've got to find ways in how we can help you do what you do and get your word out. And so we're happy to do that. And we're happy to have a conversation about how you got to get to that space, right? So yeah, it's going to be fun. So it's Greater Newark Enterprises Corporation, like the page, and we just go live. Helen and Shalisa McNeil are my guests. And Shalisa McNeil is a phenomenal young woman who actually created a product called cooling jewelry called Freya. And so you'll learn more about that and the work that she's doing to actually get that out to market. So I'm excited. And, you know, I just want to talk to you some more anyway. So let's just.
I know. Well,
11 a.m. Facebook Live.
We could go all day for sure. And for those of you watching, we just put the Facebook page information up on the screen. And that way you can, you know, join us there as well. And, you know, I'm so grateful that you can make the time to be with us today, June. As I, you know, say, you really are a light, and I'm so grateful that we have you in our community and that you are using all of the many talents that you have in the very best way possible. And you know, I always we'll be standing with you, and I know we'll find more and more ways to work together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Our foundations are rooted in the same place. So for sure.
And, you know, I will say to your comment spirit recognizes spirit,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I will say to you, I am here to help in whatever capacity I can. Happy to do it. All you have to do is ask,
Yes.
as you did, right?
Yes. Same.
Peace out to
Yes.
you.
Yes. Namaste to you too. And for those of you watching, I said to June, I had this instinct to go to her, and it's a good reminder to always follow your instincts, because they do know for sure. And for those of you watching, I just want to make sure that we get on your calendar. So today, as we said, for 11 o'clock, we look forward to another great conversation. And I'm so excited to meet this wonderful entrepreneur too. Her business sounds so exciting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to amplifying that. Tomorrow at 9 a.m., we encourage you to join us again for another YWTV. We'll have our own Sandra Blackman on, who heads up our Next Chapter program, which is focused on getting women who have been impacted by COVID, who are either out of work or underemployed as a result of the situation that we're in, to support them. We have free coaching, job coaching. We have assistance with creating your resumes and interviewing prep, as well as regular sessions with wonderful leaders in our community to help lift you up and help you with your job search. But tomorrow, we're going to specifically be talking about ways to brand yourself, and in more specifically, and this came up with June just now, this came up in a conversation that I was part of earlier in the week with former Governor Christy Todd Whitman. As women, we are not wired to brag about ourselves. We are not wired to push our great skills forward. And if anything, we dim our lights.
Yeah.
And so our conversation tomorrow is really focused on the importance of learning how to brand yourself and market yourself, whether you're writing it in your resume, whether you're writing it in a cover letter, you're sending an email, whether you're doing a pitch to someone one-on-one that you've come across and just in a conversation, an opportunity came up, whether you're doing a salary negotiation. I mean, there's so many places that will help elevate and impact, getting women more economically strong, strength around our economics. And so we're looking forward to having that conversation too. I hear you, Hollis. She's saying that she's probably a victim of that too. Hollis is one of our board members, our vice president of our board. Okay. But it's all of us, but it's a muscle. It's a muscle that we have to train, and we can come through it. So we're looking forward to talking about that tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And for those of you as well, we'll be talking at 11 o'clock about it, and we'll be having a YWTV coming up as well. But we're going to put the link in here for any of our BIPOC women entrepreneurs. We are excited to be able, through our partnership with Eureka Biz, to invite 40 women in our community to be part of a step-by-step course and coaching, mentorship, and access to a social media platform at no cost to you. You just have to sign up and be part of the effort and be all in. It's dedicated to helping women and entrepreneurs of color launch their own businesses and grow their businesses. Because as you know, the YWCA is committed to eliminating racism, and we know that economic empowerment and economic equality is key in getting us there, and specifically for women. So please consider, the link is there, and share it. I also encourage you to share this conversation. It's very easy to do. You can do it right off of our page, send it to somebody, put it on your Facebook page. It's just a great opportunity, again, to share the mic yourself and help amplify the voice of this wonderful woman that we are so grateful to have with us in our community. So with that, folks, we wish everyone a great day. And how could you not after hearing June?
This is great. This was great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And thank you to all of these wonderful viewers that have been so, interactive with us this morning, and clearly they're feeling lifted too. So everyone have a great day. Yes, lots of love, lots of goodness, lots of happiness, joy, and health. And we'll see you again tomorrow and at 11 o'clock today.
You got it. See you.
Bye, everybody.